What is going on, guys? Today is going to be a different kind of deck video, as it is my first time showing off a deck only in the OCG for now. I might butcher the name, but I did my best on Google to find the pronunciation. Xiangjian is one of the newest archetypes revealed in Dawn of Majesty, the latest box to be out in the OCG now, and it is already looking to compete for a spot in my top 5 list. Thanks to this, I'm going to spend a bit more time talking about the deck and its interactions, and later on I will probably do a separate video focused on dueling. If you hate the sound of my voice from past videos, you gotta deal with it now, just for this deck maybe. Before I get into effects, let me say the deck has some really cool art, so apologies if you don't prefer the constant zoom in from the whole list, but I really enjoyed it. This deck is pretty much the missing synchro family from the Dogmatica lore archetypes, joining up with Despia, Tri-Brigade, and Spriggans. There are 5 monsters, with 3 of them enabling your synchro plays by summoning tuner tokens. I love this because most synchro decks had the unfortunate restriction of needing 2 monsters to get rolling, but with this deck things are a little bit easier. Moye is the preferred way to get rolling, as it can reveal another Shaang card or Worm to summon a token, while Tai A can banish a card from the grave to get a token. Now each main deck Shaang monster has an effect when it is used as a synchro material, meaning it can form a chain block over your synchro summons, which is another amazing thing. Xiao can search any Shaang card from the deck to expand your combos, while benefiting from the chain block that was formed by Moye or Tai A. He can also banish a card from your grave to quick negate an opponent's monster and lower its attack permanently. He's a very solid level 8 synchro to start with. Long Yuan is the next monster who can special summon himself from the hand by discarding a Shaang card or a Worm monster, but unlike the other 2, he is level 6. Having this level grants you access to level 10 synchros, so you can easily go into the boss monster Cheng Ying the Grand Duke. Cheng is an absolute beast who can protect himself from destruction by banishing a card from the grave. He can also banish a card from the opponent's field and grave when another card is banished as well. The last effect he has also is that he gains 100 attack and defense for each card banished and lowers opposing monsters' stats by the same factor. If it isn't obvious, landing Pot of Desires gets you a 4k attack boss monster for free, leading up to some easy OTKs. That pretty much wraps up the key monsters of the deck, I think, but there are some supporting ones as well. The Xiangjian Swordmaster is kind of like a hand trap, as she can special summon herself while an effect monster has its effects negated on the field. From there she can disrupt the opponent depending on from where they summon a monster. With Xiao and my preference in running Imperm, this can be a solid piece of disruption to land if you don't use her as the cost for your other cards. The new Ecclesia monster we got actually directly supports Xiangjian, as she can special summon herself and also tribute herself to summon any Shaang from the deck. Naturally the best targets are Moye and Tai A, but either way she is another starter for the deck that is needed. There's one more monster, but I don't run it. I don't think it's any good in helping the deck, so I'm definitely skipping the other level 6. Spells and traps, we have a generic search spell and revive spell. Both of these can change the level of a Shaang monster when banished, so you can actually go outside the norm and run some other synchros that aren't level 8 or level 10. The trap is probably one of the best cards of the deck though, as it is pretty much an Icarus attack that pops instead of tributing for cost. The fun part with this is that Cheng Jing can protect himself from the pop, which lets you pop 2 cards for free almost, and banish another 2 from his own effect. It is a terrifying combo you should always strive for going first. That pretty much wraps up the main Shaang card, so if it isn't obvious by now, there is some generic synergy with Tenyis, who are also worms and also revolve around summoning non-effect monsters to a certain extent. There are some pretty fun interactions you can get with this mini engine, and I couldn't help but keep it in the list. It isn't mandatory, and I do want to toy with the idea of running more generic text, but the deck does get a lot easier to start up with and OTK with the Tenyi package. Ashuna plus the quick play can get you an alternate route to Xiao without using your normal summon, and getting any scenario with Ashuna will most likely get you a card bounce with its banished effect. For the synchros, level 8 should be the focus, but thanks to the spell's level changing effect, you can run level 7 and level 9 options, as well as level 11 if you really want to pass on the strong level 10 pool. White Aura Whale is actually a rare synchro to go into if you use Moye going second, and Drageye also benefits from the water attribute it has. Boxia and Yazi are some really good synchros however, as their effects do synergize with the rest of the deck quite nicely, and enable some good removal in OTKs. My personal tech was Virtual World Kyuubi Shen against certain decks that struggle harder against this over Xiao, but it is matchup dependent, if not another insane boost to Cheng Jing. All of the worm monsters can be revived by the spell, so that is another thing worth mentioning if you want to reuse Boxia, Yazi, or Draco Berserker. Before I start, I want to give a shout out to my opponent in this first replay, Pat, who is a frequent opponent for me in testing and always comes through to the streams. You may see his name a lot for some replays, mainly due to us having some pretty intense duels that I can't pass up on. He does brick here, so this is purely a showcase of the Tenyi package leading into an OTK. As I mentioned, Ashina plus the quick play gets you Xiao, and depending on the rest of your hand, you can search Long Yuan or Moye since there was no normal summon. I do make a mistake here by not searching Long Yuan, but we do get it anyway to get the boss monster Xiangjian for easy lethal thanks to Desires. If it isn't obvious by now, this deck can be a brutal target for Nibiru, as going for 2 synchros will easily fulfill its requirement. There really isn't a negate to go for by the 5th summon, so you can only hope you open the revive spell or your opponent nails it at the wrong point in the combo. Fun fact though, if you keep the Tenyi monsters in the hand, you can special summon them after Nibiru goes off, though I have yet to see that happen yet. Alternatively, if you have enough hand traps or back row, just summoning Xiao or Xiang can be a decent play if you feel too terrified of Nibiru, but I for one back down from no challenge. Moving on to the going first plays, like I mentioned before, the goal is to get both Xiangjian synchros with the trap and other disruption you can muster. This hand works perfectly for this as we already have the 2 monsters needed and discard fodder without hitting Desires yet. This lets us save our Xiao search for the trap itself. Sometimes if you get the revive spell on top of everything else, you can actually make a Xiang or another level 8 synchro alongside your other 2 monsters, though it may be overdoing it a little. Somehow I do get all 3 Tai's out of the deck, but I'm not complaining as it guarantees follow-up plays. If the Xiangjian sudden shift trap is banished, another token is generated as well, so it is a good target for Tai A if he is at risk of being negated since the banish is part of a cost. Now despite me going first with a decent board, I have had the unfortunate luck of getting hit by things like Duster and Twin Twisters quite frequently. Xiangjian is the primary thing to maintain on the board, as even if you lose Xiao somehow, your opponent has to get over 4,000 defense or remove him from the field in a way that doesn't involve destruction. If they try to destroy him with a card effect, he can banish a card from the field and grave after protecting himself still. It is important to mention though that your opponent does need actual targets on the field and in the grave for his effect to work. If there are no cards in the grave, his effect will not trigger, just like Necros Trishula kinda. Boxia here works best when synchroed into with Tai A, as it is a wind monster while the token is water, effectively getting you 2 spins on summon. I didn't notice during the duel, but Boxia can also pop Xiangjian and trigger his effect while reviving a worm from the grave, getting you another play if you're allowed to do so. For this last replay I'm going to speak on, I do get shut down quite easily here, so I am forced to rely on the trap card alone. Luckily we are up against a control deck, so I will survive, but against some other decks that imperm could be a death sentence with this terrible hand. Without key extenders or follow-ups, the deck will struggle on that opening play if disrupted. Lucky for us, the scenario I spoke about with Tai A will come up next turn so we can play freely and get another easy OTK. There are 2 more replays coming up for you guys to enjoy, but this is purely a first look at the deck and its capabilities. I'm going to try out a pure version with a more competitive hand trap approach or more generic tech cards later on, so expect another video when it is closer to the TCG release. One can only hope Crossout Designator becomes a thing soon. If you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe. If you prefer this more detailed approach to decks or would enjoy 2 videos for decks, one doing an explanation and one with duels, please let me know in the comment section as well. That's going to be it for me. Make sure to check me out on Twitch, and I'll catch you guys next time.